one thing I've learned is that sales and marketing, it's all under the same spectrum, which is growth,
Mhm.
right? I think in the past it was, sales did this and marketing does that. And sometimes they could be at odds. That's really blended these days. It's much more of a unified approach, which I really think
Yeah.
of as a growth approach as a whole. I think about what sales and marketing is now, which is people want to do the research on their own. They're not looking for a salesperson to guide them. I'd say again, back in the day, they needed that salesperson to introduce the product and give them the next steps and really provide that, like, that Sherpa in that journey, right? Well, now
Yeah.
people want to have that, they want to take that journey by themselves to see where they want to take those next steps. They want to
Yeah.
qualify, the communities that they feel like are the best fit. But when they engage, that's when that Sherpa needs to jump in, and that's where the salesperson can be a hero. Welcome to The Move In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. What did I learn through hosting 50 conversations with some of the most trusted thought leaders in senior living marketing and sales? Hello, I'm Larry Williams, and welcome to the Move in Senior Living Marketing, powered by Unlock Health. Honestly, I learned more than I ever imagined when we started this podcast journey this year. Every guest brought a new perspective, a new challenge, and a new way of thinking about the work we do in this industry. But here's the thing. With so many insights, voices, and lessons collected over the year, I knew I needed someone who truly understands this industry and understands me to help wrap it all together. So I asked my good friend Greg Anderson to step in as the guest host for this episode. Greg knows the space inside and out, and he knows how to ask the questions that really matter. I invited him to guide this conversation, not just to recap the year, but to uncover what I genuinely learned from these 50 episodes, what shaped me, challenged me, and changed the way I look at senior living marketing and sales. Today, Greg's in the driver's seat, and together we're diving into the stories, strategies, and mindset shifts and the lessons that I'll carry with me into the next year. All right, let's get into it. This is a fun conversation.
Hello, senior living. You may or may not know me, Greg Anderson, Managing Director of Northbridge Advisory Services. But today, it's almost like I want to take that thing down in my name and my title. I want to push that aside and put host in, because I have this amazing opportunity that you, Larry, have afforded me to be today's host, kind of the year-end special,
The year-end special, I like
episode.
it.
Yeah, the move in senior living marketing. And Larry, I am a major fan of this podcast, and for you to hand me the keys and say you take the lead today really means a lot.
Well, Greg, you're the first person I thought of, and I'm honored that you accepted that request from me. I mean, you're such a great speaker. You have so much knowledge in this industry. You've taught me so much in the last few years. But beyond all that, you're such a good friend, and
Yeah.
just having this opportunity to speak about, what I learned this year from so many subject matter experts, really the true experts in the field. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I've
Yeah.
been looking forward to this conversation since you and I spoke about it a few weeks ago. So
Yeah.
all week is like we're getting closer to Friday when we get to record, and I get to hang out with my friend Greg. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited about this conversation.
I am too. And I think you, having talked with so many people, and just looking at the depth of perspective over all of these podcasts has over the year and more is really remarkable, because I always say to my kids, it's not the answers you give when someone asks you a question that shows your smarts, your intellect, your abilities. It's the questions you ask. And when you're asking really good questions, whether you're on a podcast like you, or in the sales seat, recruiting, interview, whatever it may be, good questions matter. And the questions that you've been asking through this podcast all along have really informed me. And I think as we pull them all together in some sort of manner today, we'll recycle them back out because there's a lot of really good information that you've been able to capture.
Well, I
So
appreciate
let
that.
me
Yeah,
do
and I've
this.
been fortunate to have the right people so I could ask the right questions. And real quick, I'll say this. One thing I really appreciate about the senior living community is the vulnerability to ask questions. Like this is a
Yeah,
group where I feel comfortable asking even at times the stupid question, but not feeling bad about that. There's so much great
right.
leadership in the space. And that's one thing I tell people who are new to this industry: connect and ask all the questions because people are so excited to provide their perspective. So I appreciate that about the questions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There is a lot of collaboration. I was at Nick. I go to Nick and Asha, and of course, Senior Living 100 and Senior Living Innovation Forum, SMASH. There is a sense of collaboration in our industry right now, and things are changing all around us. So there's so much to learn, and we need to learn from each other. By the way, let me just take a little sip of my
There
coffee.
we go. I like that. I wish I had one of
Yeah.
those.
I got to tell you, my wife is using this more than I am. Every time I reach for it, it's gone. I don't get it.
There we go.
So, Larry, let me ask you this question to start things off. The customer today is very different than the customer, say, when I started 30 years ago, where it was the senior that was making the decision. They had lower acuity. They were not reliant upon, though they did seek the counsel of their adult children. Now it is flipped. And now we have adult children really driving the process. Our marketing has really aimed more towards that profile, the adult child. And I'm really talking about assisted living, memory care,
Sure.
of course. How do you have you seen changes in marketing and what people in our industry are doing given the profile of customer that we have right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Greg. And that's something that I had to learn really quickly as I entered this space, which is, you're speaking with different audiences and how important that is. And like you said, you have the adult child decision makers, but you also have the those who are looking for a new resident also. So yes, it's flipped a lot where typically 70% of the communication is going more to the adult child decision maker. But the way you speak to that adult child decision maker, it's different. You're looking to provide them peace of mind, comfort, assurances that their loved one's going to be taken care of. So that message, that content will be different for that group than the those who are seeking residence, right? That group,
Yeah.
they want a continuation of lifestyle. And what's made this challenging now is, back in the day, when I say back in the day, this is, 10 to 15 years ago, you had your website, but you had radio, television,
Mhm.
you had print. Well, now we're connecting with different generations through different content with with different approaches. And as we've
Yeah.
gotten into this, we're leaning more into social media to tell the story. YouTube, paid ads, your
Yeah.
SEO. And so one thing that I've seen work really well is that you want to take this message in the vehicles and get all parties kind of on the same page, talking about the things that are most meaningful to them, but then
Yeah.
getting them back together for this connection point for them to kind of all shake hands and say, this is the best route to go. But
Yeah.
what I've learned through this process is that we need to start this education and information as early as possible. Families need that.
Mm.
And that's something that I've learned on this podcast through thought leaders, whether it's Sarah Robertson, James Lee helped me a lot on understanding what that communication needs to look like so we can set people up because it's such an emotional journey, that
Yeah.
trying to pull all of this information together. And something that James, really highlighted is that, we think about that hero's journey in marketing. And far too often we want to associate the resident as the hero in the conversation. Well, it's
Yeah.
it's actually the caregiver. It's the adult child decision maker. They are the hero in this journey. They're the ones that need support. They're the ones
Yeah.
that are worried about their parent. They're the ones that are investing the time and energy. Focus the messaging there. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It's that large chunk is for the loved ones. but we need to think about that resident. It's an older demographic, but at the same
Yeah,
time, active aging continues to, be more of a conversation point. You're
yeah,
you're looking to get people in a place where they can live their best life, and so we
yeah.
need to make sure we're highlighting that again as that continuation of lifestyle.
Well, you're also looking at a profile of person, the adult child that is living in this Amazon world.
Yeah.
You want things immediate. You want transparency. You want things to happen very quickly.
Mhm.
On the transparency item, one of the things that we've talked with our clients about is, do you put your pricing on your website or not?
Yeah.
And I have a personal opinion about that, which is always put your starting at pricing on your website.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. Because for people to have to jump through hoops to get to something that they see as a transparency tool,
Sure.
why make them do that? So, the profile of person that's looking, we have to understand their mindset, and they want things now. They want things clear, and they want it clean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and all those different channels.
And
But yeah,
real
go
quick,
ahead.
and you're right on that. Like, that's one thing that has really stood out this year, which is pricing transparency. And if you're not transparent in all communications, regardless if that's pricing, whether it's other, yeah, communication strategies, it's chat bots, whatever that is, people will find other resources. They're not going to try to figure out what this journey looks like and stay with you. They want clear, direct communication so they can make the best decisions as fast as possible. Now, where I
Yeah,
think that helps on the marketing side is that it's a if we can be clear in what our expectations are and also
mhm,
the services we provide, you're going to
yeah,
get better leads. Because I think before it was this mirage of like, we'll get you in and then let's talk about what pricing looks like. Well, who's
right,
to say that's going to be a good lead for you? And
yeah,
they might be a better fit somewhere else. So clear, transparent information will always win the day, especially going forward. There are so many
yeah.
options. People can shop easier. Make it easy for all parties involved.
Yeah. And there's some amazing tools and technology out there to help capture leads, which kind of brings me to AI. And the technology that is afforded to us right now. I mean, look, all technology is either going to help us or hurt us. It's
Yeah.
how we use it. And I watched your podcast with Matt Reiners, who's a very good friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
And I liked how he had referred to it as your digital teammate, because we need to lean into it.
Sure.
But AI is impacting the way in which we are not only working our leads but capturing our leads. Can you speak to the AI pieces of this puzzle that are coming together that you are seeing, and perhaps even what do you see going forward as being most impactful for our business with AI?
Yeah, it's amazing when I think about last year at this time. We were getting
Yeah,
the senior living marketing survey report, and at that time is how is AI going to disrupt in 2025? And we were
yeah,
talking about it almost like this is what it can become. Well, really quickly, it went from this is what it could be to this is what it is, and this is where it's going, and everyone became very familiar so quickly, and it's been really amazing to watch that journey just over the last year. I think
yeah,
everyone has learned. Look, AI. Well, I say everybody's learned. The conversation I've had with so many people is that AI can make us more human, not less. Everybody's very concerned, but if we take
mhm,
those tasks that just take so much time, whether it's spreadsheet and data, and pulling that together and getting machine learning and having AI help with that, that's going to help us drastically. And so, what I see with AI, whether it's from a data perspective or even with content generation, like we need to leverage that to make us more efficient. And so,
yeah,
we have whether it's chatbots that are using AI to help get people through the journey faster, to be
mhm,
more responsive when people are looking for, if that adult child decision maker is looking for options at 11 o'clock at night, but they don't have someone available to chat with them, they can actually have that tool online just to go back and forth, and that's going to help them,
Yeah.
take those next steps. The other thing
Yeah.
is, as we again pull together this data, it's going to help us shape what the future looks like and what's that best approach. Now, as we
Yeah.
go through the sales conversations, we think about like note taking apps and ways to leverage the conversational AI, so we don't have to we can actually have conversations and have a system to take those notes, and we don't feel like we're going through a checkbox of like now
Right.
this, now that. And so
Yeah.
I think it can make us more human. And then we get into the content generation. That's also going to help us because we say like you don't want AI just to give you some information and you just run with it. It really helps with writer's block. It helps you kind of come up with new ideas and how to, form your thoughts. And so again,
Right.
I'll say that people, we all need to leverage these tools to connect more as humans. I think
Mhm.
people crave authenticity now more than ever. People crave experiences now more than ever. Let's
Yeah.
leverage AI to help us provide that experience and that human interaction and not behind a camera.
I man, I love everything you just said. That's absolutely spot on. It can enhance our human connection. And you just, you were just, I'm an old media guy. So writer's block, that
Yeah,
is a real thing. When you are looking for the right email message that you want to send, when you're looking for the right scripting, what are the best questions that I can
mhm.
be asking? To not use AI to help you with that is really a change, a change, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Problem.
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
go with that. But it's our friend John Larisha
Mhm.
at Welcome Home.
Yeah,
They just rolled out an AI tool for helping you to get predictive scoring on your prospects. I haven't really seen it, so I don't can't speak on its behalf,
sure.
and this isn't the venue to be advertising for people, but it caught my attention that AI is really here to stay, and it's going to be sitting in our natural course of work, our tools,
Sure.
things that are, I mean, good Lord, you log on to Microsoft 365 and there's Gemini sitting
Yeah.
there asking you to ask it a question. So I like that we're all leaning into it. I
Yeah,
really
and
do.
I'll say that if it wasn't for AI, we couldn't have recorded 50 of these conversations this year because it really helps prepare the conversation. We also record, and just being transparent with the audience, I'm able to take short clips through Opus Pro. So I don't need a video
Mhm.
production group to take some of this information. I use transcripts to help me, provide articles like in terms of this blog
Yeah,
content. But again, it's not that I take it and whatever it states, I run with it. It gives me ideas which I can trim down and make it my own.
right.
But again, I
Yeah,
don't have to sit and type everything out. It just, and ultimately that helps us, provide more guidance to the audience. And so
right.
again, just leveraging it to make you more human and connect as a person.
Yeah, yeah. You know those people, Larry, that are just know-it-alls? They're just the person that they're kind of the Cliff Clavin of Cheers, of
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
industry. They have an answer for everything. They don't want to be
Sure.
wrong. It's just who they are. I love how they could say write something in Chat GPT and have them blow their mind with an answer. I didn't even
It
think of that. Another
it
one. That blew my
100%.
mind too.
The funny thing about it, I've never, put anything in ChatGPT and was like, and ChatGPT said, "Oh, that's perfect. You're good. Go with it." Like it always
Yes,
has a
exactly.
guidance. Now, it's the
Right.
last thing I'll say about ChatGPT. I still feel bad. I still feel like I need to say please and thank you. Like I feel like at
I
some
do the
point
same
I
thing.
feel terrible. I feel like I'm just bossing this poor AI around and I'm not even being kind about it. So
Yeah.
that's a personal struggle. I know I need to get past, but at some point, hopefully the robots hear this and they accept my apologies when they take over.
I think someone is listening to us.
For
Someone is
sure.
listening to us right now. So, but yeah, absolutely. On the you mentioned the word data,
Yeah.
And in my business, I can have all the ideas in the
Mhm.
world, which I don't. But I am a data person, and I need data to inform decisions
Yeah.
and help my clients to to go in the right direction. Um, how are you seeing data being used
Mhm.
differently? And maybe we can kind of look at it from the regional sales
Yeah.
to the property sales. How do you see data being used differently in your experience or with some of your clients?
Yeah, I would say one struggle is that far too often we want more data, but then we're drowning in data. And I have this note here from my conversation with Christy Freeze yesterday, which is
Mm.
data is great, but
Love
what
her.
we are doing with the data is what matters. And so we need to make sure that data is aligning. And when I say that, more so than ever, when I say we, I'm speaking to us vendors, the channel partners, the solution partners, to make sure we have ways to connect this data. I think in the past it was almost this silo, like, well, this is the information I have, and I'll give
Yeah,
it to you for you to take, and you can pass along to that group. No, what we need to do is make sure we're having connection points as solution partners to make sure all of that data goes together. And the other thing we got to think about is the fact that it needs to be the data that goes in needs to be clean. And so whatever data you start with,
yeah,
that's why it's so important to, for salespeople to update the CRMs. That's why it's so important to make sure all of this connects, because that stays with the potential resident, the prospect, the lead, all the way through the journey, through the move in, and their experience going forward. And so
yeah,
I see that data as being more important than ever. But beyond the move in side of it, we think about, like, we need to continue to watch what's working, what's not working, not overreact from the data, but just let it
yeah.
define and let it point you in the right direction. One
Or
thing that
you had in one of your interviews, I don't recall, I'm embarrassed, I should know, maybe you recall, but one of your interviews, he had said don't use data to validate your hypothesis.
yes,
Use
Car
data to drive you in a new direction. I
yeah,
love that.
that was Carson Ellsworth, and I love
Mm.
how he approached data, which is very scientifically, which
Yeah,
is he had this idea, and he talked about this on the podcast with paid media, and he went all in, and he had to take a step back and said the data doesn't prove what I said it was going to
yeah,
do. We need to step back and follow what this data is telling us.
yeah,
um One thing that I think is a challenge now with marketing is when Google makes changes, with their algorithms, people get flustered, and after a month or two it's like, this is broken, run away from it. But
yeah,
we don't need to overreact from the data, but again, try to work through it, see where it's pointing us, adjust, but don't completely shift gears, like make these hard pivots. Follow the
right.
data, but just give things time, and just work through some of it, and just we need to continue to make sure those data points are connecting all the way
Yeah,
from leads through the move in and the experience after. And I think the
yeah,
more we can learn from that data and leverage it, the better off the experience is going to be for everybody.
yeah. I use a phrase. I like to coach a salesperson, coach to conversions.
Mm,
If a salesperson in a community is very good at getting someone in the door, their inquiry to tour ratio is very high, but their tour to deposit or tour to move in is very low. We often see operators kind of do a one size fits all
mhm.
training. Oh, wow, we've got low sales. Something's not happening in sales. Let's go back to the beginning. If data is accurate and you can really pull up true conversions, so this is for all those regionals out there, make sure your teams are actually putting their data in and
Yeah,
they're, all of that, then you can refine what you need to coach somebody on. So you're not trying to say, okay, let's talk about the whole lead journey. No, no, no. Focus on the piece of what happens after they tour. There's a breakdown there. We've got
yeah.
a conversion on that. So, um,
That's
Yeah.
really that's really, really good stuff, Greg. And I appreciate you highlighting that because it made me think about other areas, which is going back to
Yeah.
the AI conversation, which is we need to continue to become, I'd say, professionals at what we do, especially on the sales side of things. In AI, with that training, you can do role playing where it's not so awkward through AI. And so that
Yeah.
helps us where we're not practicing on a potential resident, right? And I think that's really helpful. The other
Yeah.
things we go through that once we're able to get more comfortable, we can be more in the moment. Again, going back to being more human. And I learned a lot from Reed Davis and Jasmine about really the empathy side of senior living sales. And we need to make sure we're showing up our best self, but most empathetic self as we go through this journey. The last
Yeah.
thing I'll say, and again, I just want to keep highlighting some of the people I've gotten to speak with, which is Kira Deschamps. She mentioned that post tour conversation and why so much happens. The tour could go great, right? But sometimes having those conversations and having that tour, they're ready. They like the building. The problem is they realize what all they have to do to prepare for this next step. And
Right.
so then it goes back to we need to provide as much information and content as possible so they can feel more comfortable at those beginning stages so they don't go through the tour and then feel overwhelmed with, well, now I got to do this, I got to do this, now I have to do this and this and this. And
Yeah.
that being said, it's like this big cycle that we need to think about all parts to really make this a very I say client client rewarding experience from
Yeah. I like
from
that.
the beginning to end, and it all works together. And that's something that I would say I learned a lot this year. Is just this is like peeling back an onion, in terms of senior living sales and marketing. Everything affects the other, pieces of this, and so that's why we need to think about all phases and make sure that we're breaking
Yeah.
down those silos across sales, marketing, operations, and frontline providers.
It's interesting, Larry. I can see, just knowing you personally, I can see how much you are very skillfully able to take the sales journey and understand that and layer in marketing to push it through
Yeah.
and to guide that. And a lot of competitors in your space, competitors in my space, they lean towards one or the other. And
Mhm.
granted, the mechanics of sales and the mechanics of marketing are two very different things, and we can't blend everything so much that we are diluting impact. But for someone in your position where you're guiding a client to say, who is saying, I'm not getting enough conversions, I'm not getting enough leads, and what leads I am getting, they're not good. And for you to understand, okay, here's your product. It's a 62 unit memory care community. Why are you advertising couples?
Yeah.
Why are you talking? I mean, are you advertising and putting your message to where your desired product and customer is? You've got an interesting approach, and I like that you can see both of those, and and can guide people from that pushing into the funnel, but then moving them through the
Yeah.
sales cycle. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that, Greg. I love seeing what I like to look at. One thing I've learned, let me start there. One thing I've learned is that sales and marketing, it's all under the same spectrum, which is growth,
Mhm.
right? I think in the past it was, sales did this and marketing does that. And sometimes they could be at odds. That's really blended these days. It's much more of a unified approach, which I really think
Yeah,
of as a growth approach as a whole. I think about what sales and marketing is now, which is people want to do the research on their own. They're not looking for a salesperson to guide them. I'd say again, back in the day, they needed that salesperson to introduce the product and give them the next steps and really provide that, like, I mean, that Sherpa in that journey, right? Well, now
yeah,
people want to have that they wanna take that journey by themselves to see where they want to take those next steps. They want to
yeah,
qualify, the communities that they feel like are the best fit, but when they engage, that's when that Sherpa needs to jump in, and that's where the salesperson can be a hero, right? I mean, we don't
Right.
ever really we always think about the sales side, the client's always the hero, but this is the chance for the salesperson to lean in and help. And I think about that's the way I like to shop. I don't want a salesperson reaching out to me like first time I contact a company. I want to do that research, but by God, when I need some help, it's really nice to have somebody who I can just call or email
Right.
and they provide that guidance. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important in this next phase, which is look, let's get this content out there. Let's connect with them where they are in that process, like what you're saying. Meet them where they are in this process, and that's different areas. But then once they kind of lean in, be a resource. Going back
Yeah.
to like with conversations with Christy Freeze, again, a friend of both of us, leveraging video. So there's that friendly connection at the
Yeah.
beginning. If we can be more authentic and be more human in this process,
Yeah.
it helps everybody. And that would be really my message when it comes to marketing and sales. Set everyone up for success, define that journey, but when that person is ready to have that conversation, be there and meet them where they are and provide value. Always
Yeah.
sell with value first.
Yeah. And the onus is on the regional team to coach that down.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many using Christie and Walt and Heart Legacy's product, the video piece. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, "Yeah, we're really not going to use that. It doesn't get done. No one's doing it." And I always come out of those conversations with, well, you're not empowering them to use the tool properly. Just like the CRM, are you empowering them? Are you encouraging them? Are you coaching them? Are you training them? Are you showing them? Are you mentoring them?
Yeah.
All of, because these tools, video is so impactful.
It
it,
is.
it is so impactful. And if you've got a little sales message, sure, that may look a little flat and feel weird. And it's, you and I are comfortable being in front of a camera, but not everybody is. So find your thing
For sure.
and use it. And then to the point of who opened it,
Mhm.
was it forwarded to somebody else? Was it just a view? That's your data,
Yeah,
and now
for
you can
sure.
build upon that.
And
So
like you said, just be authentically you. And that's something
yeah.
I appreciate with Christy Vander Westhuizen mentioning. Just be your authentic self. Show up
Yeah.
as that person who's going to help and provide value. That might
Yeah.
mean this is not a good fit for you. We think you're
Yeah.
better off if, here's some other resources. Always, provide value and you know, I think that's what's ultimately going to win the day. Going back to the conversation about AI, we're surrounded by technology and screens. That's why it's so important for us to show up as people. And yes,
Yeah.
it's awkward on videos. Well, you and I have talked about it before, the awkwardness of recording short form videos on your phone. Man, if somebody saw my blooper reel, they would laugh. It'd be my kids have seen
Yeah,
me
mine
like trying
too.
to record and they laugh and everything. So it is
Yeah.
awkward. I'd say just lean into it, but nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. And it's okay that you're not perfect. You're learning, growing, but just keep pushing yourself because
Right.
you will thank yourself in the future for you kind of lean into the discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be comfortable with failure. You got to be
You do.
comfortable with no. You have to
Yeah.
be comfortable with an objection. Um, if I can just in the interest of time, I wanted to shift gears and talk about one thing that I think, I know you're well dialed into, but everyone from the operator perspective is talking about it, and that is the national lead aggregators.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you've got a Place for Mom, Caring.com, and all of those. And I want to isolate out the local referral agencies. I'm not referring to them in the
Mhm.
context of this, but we all struggle with, what do we do with the Place for Mom? What do we do with Caring.com? Is it helping us? Is it filling my funnel with unqualified people? Um, and there's an AI piece that a Place for Mom is now diving into, where they are leaning more towards, if someone goes into ChatGPT and says, what's the best assisted living community in my town, it's going to come up with an answer very different than Google.
Sure.
So, there's a whole lot of those moving parts. Uh, but the interesting thing, and I'm interested in your feedback on this, because when we look at that, who is our product today, and
Mhm.
we see that need for immediacy,
Yeah.
transparency, education. I don't want to pay for it. If I don't want to pay for it unless I can really see it.
Sure.
That's what that company and those companies, that's the role they can play. How do you see your clients come to you and say, I am sick of them. I want more of my own leads and I want to work them. And I, on many levels, am a big fan of A Place for Mom and caring.com. And I have great friends that work with both. But there's a positive and a negative, and some companies are just a hard no. What
Yeah.
do you see out there as it relates to the national aggregators?
I think communities and organizations will continue to learn how to tell their story and secure their real estate, within the digital platforms. They don't need to have a caring.com or a place for mom to be at the top and kind of segment, where people are going. Two different sides of that conversation, or two people that have kind of explained, their journey.
Mm,
That our podcast production partner, he reached out to me with such venom and anger because he went through a place for mom, and he says, "I'm getting calls nonstop now. I'm
yeah,
overwhelmed with it. I don't want to deal with it. Can you just give me some insights of who I can reach out to?" And it was a really negative experience and really put a bad taste in his mouth. Now,
yeah,
the flip side, when my grandmother went to memory care, my mom said A Place for Mom was a great resource on, what to look for, and how to kind of segment what those next steps need to be. I
yeah,
think going forward, I see senior living organizations and providers continue to really develop their own story and leveraging, those resources, whether it's a senior's guide or senior care finder, which acts more like a Zillow, where you can compare options, but you don't have to put in your information. And I think that's
right.
that future where that future is going to continue to progress to. Uh,
Yeah,
it is tough because for us, we work with clients on setting up, paid media campaigns, but we know how long these sales cycles can be. They could be years. And so to tie all that information so we can attribute that information to a paid lead, that can be
yeah,
challenging. It's a lot easier just to have that one-to-one move in relationship, but it costs a lot more. And so again,
yeah,
my message is take ownership of this journey, your marketing space, your message. And I think that will continue to really take shape, especially with AI overviews. Like we need to continue to focus our content there. And also I'm very bullish when it comes to social media. The better stories we can tell. That's I would say that's one overarching conversation I've had this year is just really telling that authentic story. And I think that
yeah,
social media is also going to break that barrier as communities, share their authentic stories from the resident staff perspective. And that's going to touch people's hearts in a different way. So again, I see communities really taking ownership of this marketing journey and leaning less into A Place for Mom or caring.com.
yeah. I think you're right. And when you look at lead generation, a community that is not generating enough leads, and the salesperson is freaking out because they
Yeah.
need five more sales. They're skimming off the top. They're not working into their lead bank, but they're just hoping for anyone that's new and fresh
Yeah.
and that's going to come in. They get it's daunting to deal with this heavy number of leads that are coming in, which seven other assisted living communities are also getting. That just becomes an irritant to them.
Yeah.
There are ways in which to work it. There are ways in which to benefit from some of those national lead aggregators. But I always say, what else are you doing? Are you
Yeah.
talking to my friend Larry and saying, let's jump on this AI thing? How can we plump up our social media? What does my SEO look like? What does my SEM look like? And what is my external business development? look like? My boots on the ground. Is outreach, I'll get to it when I can. I'll get to it when I don't have a lot of tours? Or is it, no, it is a part, it is a spoke in the wheel. We
Yeah,
have to do it directly. So guess what? If you guys and EBD and all of the other things start to top load your lead count, you're not going to be as worried about a place for mom,
sure.
you
And
know?
and taking control of that. And again, the challenge is that speed to lead. And I think that's the problem. It does take time for it costs a lot of money to rebuild your website. It takes time
Yeah.
for Google to index these changes. It takes times for Google to make changes for your paid media strategy. So even though the Google paid media strategy will be much faster, which is a month or so compared to 7 months for a website SEO update, it still takes time, and people in communities need leads faster. So I get that, but like you said, be intentional about your marketing strategy and take those small steps now. And those small steps now mean meaningful results in the future. So just say, continue to take as much ownership in your marketing and sales strategy as possible. You're trying. Okay, I'll say this, Greg. What I would say is that paid media through Google, it's like renting a house. And so it's good. It gets a roof over your head, but ultimately you need to make sure you're buying a house as well, because once you build that website, you invest in your social media and continue to build up that's yours. You're not having to go through
Yeah.
Google for paid media. You're not having to go to a place for mom. This is your property. You own this, and you can keep building that foundation, which is ultimately going to help you. It just takes time and effort and intentionality.
What about people that say on social media? What about people that say, Facebook? I don't get any leads
Mm.
from social media, from Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
Why should my salesperson be spending, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour a week on that when I don't get any business from it? What do you say to those clients of yours that say that?
Facebook, well, social media as a whole, and you'll see that. I think about my wife's grandmother, Grandma Betty. We went to the beach last summer, and she was on Instagram, right? I always laugh because she got into a Kenny Rogers algorithm, and I had to go outside with my bourbon just because she had it full blast. It was one Kenny Rogers song after another, and I laugh about that. But again, you that's the place where we connect, right? Far too often. That's kind of how we detox from the day. Now, social media, this is where you can tell that authentic story differently than your website. So leverage your residents' voices, leverage your
Mhm.
staff, tell those stories. I always say that senior living has the best stories from the residents, the staffs, the geography. You have so many stories to unpack. Leverage it that way. Talk about it within, social media, because you can record a short video. You can connect with people, and the story is what really is impactful, and that's what people remember. So as an
Yeah.
organizational level, it's really important to leverage that, because it's that brand awareness play.
Yeah.
And it's no to me, it's almost like uh direct mail, where it's that awareness play, but you're staying in
Yeah.
an algorithm, and where if you engage with it, they're going to get more. So it's that you
Yeah.
want to get in that algorithm and let it do its thing. So it's really a brand awareness. Now for the
Yeah.
individual sales rep, you become an expert. So take that information that your community, your organization's posting, and repurpose that. And guess what? The more you can build your brand presence, you become the ultimate resource where people, if they do have
Yeah.
questions, they reach out to you. Continue to
Right.
provide those best, those best answers, and
Yeah.
provide content that's going to help others with their journey. And whether it's Facebook or Instagram, building that brand awareness, it really will help you long term, because people see you as an authority and someone that they can rely on, and they will reach out to you with their loved ones. So I would say on the marketing side, it's really important, but the sales side, it's just as important. Leverage it, be intentional about it, and just make sure it reflects your authentic voice.
I would say there are two things. One, with social media. One, you need a champion in your
Yeah.
community to own it, and it's not always the activities person. It's not always the life engagement person. I've seen places where the executive director is the one that does it. and is taking the pictures and is writing the posts, and so it doesn't have to be the default based on the way our company does things. Um, you need a champion. The other thing is, from a sales perspective, I challenge everyone that's watching this that works in a community. If you go on your community's website, Facebook page, and scroll through it, and if that doesn't give a correct image of what your community is like, meaning it is too focused on one side, assisted living versus memory care, or vice versa, or it's a lot of corporate branded things that don't have a look and a feel of your town, your community, your building, then you're not using Facebook
Yeah,
to the best of social media because a great salesperson would say, get that damn Facebook to represent what I'm
for
selling,
sure.
because I want to tell a prospect before they come in, hey, before you come in, take a look at our Facebook page. Number
Yeah.
one, like it, and then scroll through it. You're going to see everything digitally, what you're going to experience when you come in. So those two have to be
For
aligned.
sure. And think about the way we search, Greg, which is we go on a website, but then we peek into the social media, see what it's really about. That
Hmm.
gives you a good indication of if it piques your interest and you want to learn more.
Yeah.
Something that Nathan Jones has said many times, which is make sure social media is not a checkbox, meaning like Happy Thanksgiving. All right, it's
Yes.
hey, I hope you have a good weekend. Like the Happy Valentine's Day in his example, especially like Valentine's Day, it's to tell the stories of those in your community, of them falling in love, of
Yeah.
what their stories are. That's so easy. Like that's when I
Yeah.
say it's easy, like you just have to be
It is
intentional about it.
easy.
We have tools to record, right?
That's
Our
right.
phones, they're right here. We can record in 4K. We can edit. There's CapCut. You can do all of this. I think we just need to be intentional about it and not think that there needs to be. My struggle is when people think that there's a direct correlation with leads. Like, okay, well, how many leads did that get? Well,
That's
how
right.
many leads did the commercial in the Super Bowl get? You can't measure that directly. It's a brand
Yeah.
awareness tool that's so important. Lean into it and it's going to pay off long term. The other thing
Right.
I say with that type of content, you can chop that up and repurpose that content in so many different ways. It's so valuable that again, it's really important just to leverage it and reuse it.
Yeah. As we wrap up, Larry, I just wanted to ask you, and of course I have my notes, so I've thought this ahead, but I haven't told you I'm going to be asking you this. But um, intuitively, knowing you, you'll have some good insight. When you
No
look at
pressure,
2000,
right?
yeah, exactly. And I'd like you to speak in German when you
Oh, there
answer
we
my
go. I'm
question.
ready.
So yeah. But when you look at 2026,
Mhm.
what do we need to be focused on? What are some of the areas of our business in marketing? How do we make our marketing move? Uh, what are some what are some thoughts that you have as perhaps a regional that is sitting and watching this, or a salesperson in a community?
Yeah, I would say focus on authenticity more than ever. We need to connect with our most true, authentic voice from the community perspective. That means you want images of real residents. No more stock photography. What something I've heard is with marketing teams is they had this image, but then they notice one of their competitors had the same image.
That's
We
right.
need to get away from stock imagery. We have the resources for, photography. The same thing with videos. Leverage videos as much as possible.
Yeah.
I'm saying all this like just to also say like we need to make sure we have an omni-channel experience prepped. Don't lean all the way into a place for mom. Don't lean all the way into Google paid ads. Don't lean all the way into social media. You really
Mm,
need to cover all the bases. Again, think about you're trying to connect with different audiences in different vehicles telling different stories. Be
yeah.
very intentional about every step of that journey. And so I think that's what's going to ultimately win and be patient through it. I think we live in a world of instant, like, hey, I made this change on the website. Where is it? we
That's
need
right.
to continue to know, the timeframes and really set our leadership teams up to be ready for those changes and when we can expect to see a reflection from those change. So,
Yeah.
omni-channel experience, we need to be as authentic as possible in again from the branding perspective, leveraging videos and connect with people where they are in this moment and just be prepared for change. What one of my favorite quotes is, what got us here won't get us there. Where we start this year is not where we're going to end this year. I see a lot of changes with the AI overviews within Google. It's going to
Yeah.
continue to evolve, and so we need to structure our content for that now, but don't over index for it. Let's continue to ride the waves and
Yeah.
continue to connect people and put our best version of ourselves out there. And as we continue to evolve the overall narrative of senior living, we're in such a great moment right now with the baby boomer generation, the silver tsunami coming through. This is our moment to really make an impact in people's
Yeah.
lives and really tell the true story of senior living.
I think that is a perfect spot to end, though I could continue talking to you for probably another 2 hours, which we have done many
We have,
times.
yes.
Uh, but authenticity and being intentional are two words that I would relate back to you and what you're doing here. And we have clients that are operators and companies all across the country. Our parent company is an owner and operator in New England. I see it from the operator perspective, and when I look at what you bring forward, Larry, you personally, whether you're standing next to you having a glass of wine and a beer at a conference, or whether I'm watching you on your podcast, the authenticity is just seeping through, and that is the type of professional that really does move the needle. That's where we see a Nate and a Christy and a Walt and all of Matt
Yeah.
Reiners. That's where we know those people. You are one of the good guys, and this has really been a highlight for me to be able to host your show, learn from you, and know that the next time I see you or others see you, it's like, you go talk to Larry. You got to say hi to that guy. You got to ask his opinion on something, and you'll get something that is truly authentic.
That means the absolute world to me. It really does, my friend. In coming from one of the good guys, just a quick story for the audience. I've learned a lot from going to conferences and events in the senior living space. And when we speak about how cordial and how inviting this group is, one of my first events, it was at Health Tech, and you knew everybody in the room. I knew nobody, right? But I happened to stand in line with you, just getting a beer. And so we went and sat down. Of course, there's a whole table. Greg, come sit with us, right? But there's only one seat. But you said, no, I'm going to sit over here with Larry. And you went and sat with me just to kind of bring me into the fold. And that shows what type of person you are. But just as importantly, that's what this community is all about, is we don't leave
Yeah.
anybody behind. And if you're willing to learn, grow, this community will pull you in and help out in any way they can. So thank you for your mentorship. Thank you for your friendship. And man, thank you for being a part of this, Greg. This is so much fun. I'm with you. I think we could have chatted for another hour about
I
all things
know.
senior living as well as just family.
That's right. That's right. Larry, thank you so much for inviting me, and what a great show. I got my notes. I was taking notes on this. I mean, I'm learning something. So hopefully others watching this will have learned something as well. And thank you for letting me host.
Well, thank you. I think they've learned just as much from you as they did from me. So I appreciate it, Greg. Greg, thank you for stepping in as today's guest host and guiding this conversation. Your insight, your friendship, and ability to ask the right questions made this reflection truly meaningful. And to everyone listening, thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Whether you've joined for one episode or all 50, your support keeps this podcast moving forward. And a huge thank you to all the incredible guests who shared their time and wisdom with us this year. And I want to give a special thanks to my team at Unlock Health for their constant encouragement and support. this show simply wouldn't exist without them. I'm grateful for every one of you and can't wait to continue to learn, grow, and move this industry forward together. And until next time, let's go create some meaningful connections.